Welcome to the Body Wise podcast. I'm Beth Manning. I'm a psychic healer and an expert at reading the body and healing with energetics. In this podcast, we go beyond the physical, exploring the emotions, beliefs, energy, and spiritual connection to help you heal, align, and fully embody your truth and step into your power. Welcome back, everyone, to the Body Wise podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. Today, I want to talk about making the wrong decision. And I'm sure this is something that resonates with a lot of people because I know for so much of my life, I set up my life to try to make the right decisions. And that meant avoiding making a lot of decisions or agonizing over making a decision or asking everybody I knew, what should I do? How should I handle this? I remember, especially when I first started my business, I was just terrified to fail. I was so terrified to make the wrong decision. And I spent so much time and money and energy trying to get it right by trying to figure out what everybody else was doing, because I figured that had to be the right thing to do, that if it was working for them, that it would work for me. And it wasn't till I really started understanding energy that I really started to see that you can't copy somebody else's way of doing something and expecting it to work the same way. And I feel like I really learned this the hard way. But when you understand energy, you realize that we're all so unique, that we're all individuals. And I believe that really the best teaching, the best lesson, the best investment that we can make is not in somebody else's method, but in connecting with our own method, by getting really clear on what our own inner wisdom feels like, sounds like, how it communicates with us. And it wasn't until I started doing that, until I really started prioritizing connecting to my body, that I started having more quote unquote success in my business. And I'm going to define success by the fact that I was finally having fun. I was finally enjoying what I was doing, because it was like I was trying to wear somebody else's pants for so long, and like, they're not my pants. They're not going to feel good on my body, right? So it's like, I think we spend so much time looking outside of ourselves for the answers when we can get so much when we start to tap into our own inner knowing and into our own inner wisdom. And if this is lighting you up, if you're like, yes, I'm so into this, but I struggle with this, like, you are not alone. You are not alone. And what's happening right now is the energy is so intense that it's really forcing us all to start to shed what's within us, what's holding us back, what's keeping us from connecting to our intuition, what's keeping us from really fully stepping up into our power, using our voices, being bigger. So much of that is starting to shed away. And it might be doing so in a painful way of triggers or things in your life just completely changing or releasing, letting go of relationships, having things ending in your life. But I promise you, this is all happening to help you get an even deeper connection to yourself. And I would argue that so many spiritual people, we get into this and we start, I want to connect to my guides and take me to my higher self and all of all of this work that's outside of us, even though it's for us, even though it's for our connection, it's for our betterment and our growth. But I think we can waste so much energy trying to do these, like I would say, more advanced things when we have so much information available inside of us right now, this very minute. And the thing is, since the day you were born, it's been speaking to you. It's been giving you so much information. And I find that there are blocks, but they're not as big as people think they are. They're not like years of work that has to be done in order to connect with ourselves. And the energy right now is so supportive of this work that things are happening fast. We are jumping timelines. We are speeding up our growth so much that this is such a beautiful time to jump in and start connecting to yourself and to your intuition and building that trust. So if you are like, yes, I'm loving this, I would love for you to join me in my Awaken workshop. It takes place on April 4th, and it's currently still in early bird pricing until April 1st. So you can get in on this workshop, and the beautiful thing about it is it's about connecting to your intuition. It's not about following some step-by-step process, because there is no step-by-step process. What works for me will likely be different for you. So it's really uncovering your own process so that you can get crystal clear on what it is that you desire, what it is that your intuition is speaking to you, how it speaks to you, what it sounds like, how it feels in your body, and really building that trust. I mean, having intuition right now and trusting it is such a radical act, because we are in this world right now that is giving us so many messages, so many things that aren't even true right now. And we've been taught to question ourselves, to doubt, that we have our power, that we have the answers inside of us. So this self-connection right now is such a radical act and such a powerful step toward really learning about yourself at a deep level and stepping forward powerfully in your life. So I invite you to join me inside this workshop. I will post the links below. And if you're hearing this later, there will also be a replay of the workshop. So let's talk a little bit about that fear about making the wrong decision. Because I hear this so much, that this feels like the big block to trusting yourself, to trusting your intuition, is this fear that we'll get it wrong. And I think underneath this fear really lies a lot of judgment. The judgment of what will my friends and family say if I do this thing that feels right, but maybe goes against what my family believes, or against what people have told me to do in the past, or what I was raised to believe is true. Because remember, oftentimes intuition doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It's felt in your body. So a lot of times it's like you can't really say why you chose it. You don't really have a bullet pointed list of, here's my argument for following this. Because a lot of times it's just a hunch. A lot of times it's just a deep knowing. It's just a deep feeling. So it really is about confronting that fear of judgment and confronting that fear of failure and what will happen if I do fail, if I do make the wrong decision, because for so long, right, we grew up in school where there was a right answer and a wrong answer. And it probably didn't feel too good if you chose the wrong answer. I can remember a lot of times when I felt absolutely humiliated in math class, not knowing the answer or having the wrong answer, feeling like you're getting laughed at. But with judgments, it's an interesting thing because even if we don't do the thing, we judge ourselves. So it's kind of like we're going to receive judgment either way. We can either do the thing and risk judgment from other people. And so much of people's judgment is really just their insecurity or their, man, I wish I had like the guts to do that thing, or I don't really understand this, so I'm going to judge it. So a lot of judgment is seeing somebody else's character. It's really triggering somebody else. So it has nothing to do with you, right? So if you make the quote unquote wrong decision and somebody disagrees with you, it usually is just because it's making them uncomfortable at some level. And, we tend to not keep our discomfort to ourselves as humans. We tend to project it onto other people to try to feel better about that discomfort. But the thing is, if you don't do the thing because you fear judgment, I guarantee you're just going to fill your own head with judgment about not doing the thing or what kind of person that makes you, that you didn't have the guts to do the thing or to go through with whatever it was. So I challenge you to start to disassemble some of these viewpoints that we have around getting it wrong or making the wrong decision. And also flashing back to when I was starting my business, I was so afraid of failing that I didn't do anything really. I played it really safe, or I waited until somebody had a method that worked for them and then I tried to adopt that, and then, it was like banging my head against the wall because it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't my energy. But the thing is that we don't really find out what works until we find out what doesn't work. It's kind of like we have this big checklist of things that we could try. And I guarantee you it doesn't matter if you're psychic or not psychic. Like, there's no free pass here. Like, we all have to experience failure, right? But we've just been taught by society that failure is so bad, that it makes us bad, that you're a bad person for doing it. Like, and it really stops us from stepping into our power and actually trying something, actually like flirting with success. And I kind of like this idea of like failing fast. It's like, can we just try those options? Because one of these things is going to work, or it's going to show us, it's going to open up the doorway to something else. So it's like every time something doesn't work, it creates space. And the universe always fills in space, that it doesn't leave a void. The energy will be filled in with something else. And I guarantee you it'll be something more aligned. It'll be something closer to the answer, or it'll show you like, that really isn't the direction that I want to go in. Like I tried some things with my business and it was like, this is fun, this is exciting, but maybe this is more of a hobby. Maybe this aspect of it, I'm going to keep this for myself and focus more on this. But I wouldn't have known that unless I'd put it all on the line and given it a try. So I'd love for you to think about failure and to think about it being judged or judging yourself, like where you're judging yourself or where you're holding back. Because so much of intuition and trusting ourselves, like building that self-trust, is really going up against years of being taught not to trust ourselves or being raised by people who didn't trust themselves. And, just seeing that failure is a necessary part of growth. And every single failure in my life has been a massive redirection. So a few episodes ago, I talked about how my life a couple of years ago really just started to fall apart. Like everything in my life that I felt like I was working toward wanting, it was like the kind of suburban dream of, the kids and the house and the car and the suburbs. And, I am still like wanting to be in nature and doing a lot of that. But I was really kind of losing myself to what other people thought, was the way, or when you were reaching 40, this was what your life had to look like. And I was getting really sucked into that and like really pulled in a direction that didn't feel right to me. And I remember I started doing a lot of soul work that year and a lot of connecting to myself and really making time to do that every day. And the more and more I connected to myself, the more uncomfortable it felt, but in a good way. Like uncomfortable as in, I don't know that this is really what I want in my life, that this is really the life that I want. And then it started to unravel, so much stuff started to happen all at once that it was like I had no choice but to surrender and to give in to this flow of my life going in a completely different direction. And it's like I had to really battle with this idea of feeling like a failure, because on paper I felt like a real failure. But the thing is that when we really get into our bodies, when we really start to connect to what it is that we want at the purest, deepest level, it can be so different than what our human wants. And I think there can be this fear of, oh my God, like, what if my intuition tells me something? What if I can't handle what it tells me? And every step of the way that things started to fall apart, like my housing fell apart, my finances fell apart, my marriage was falling apart, my family members' health was falling apart. Like literally every checkbox we could check at that point, I felt like I was checking off for things like really getting screwed up in my life. But when I sat with myself, when I tuned into my soul, when I connected to my inner wise woman, everything was okay. It was like this big hug or this big, warm reassurance that this is the plan and that it's okay and that it's working out. And the more I surrendered and didn't fight that, the easier life became. Like the more things started to sort themselves out. Like, so the more those failures started to turn into opportunities, started to turn into, wow, I had never a year ago could have even predicted that this was the way that my life was going to go. But I wasn't saying that like, holy shit, my life. I was saying it like, wow, like this is nothing that my mind could have imagined working out for me. Because in the end, everything was working out for me. We just think in the time that it's working out against us, that what did I do wrong? I made a wrong decision and now I'm stuck with this, or like I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or the universe is trying to teach me a lesson. And no, no. The more we just let go of that and trust this direction, the more that we start to align with our intuition. And it was so much easier for me to connect. And it became so much louder and an easier voice for me to hear the more I made time to really connect with myself. And I've always felt like this connection is so important. Because when I was, doing more body work and like when I'm helping people with their health and things, like I never want to tell people what to do. Like I don't believe that that's my place. Like I can help read the energy, I can help give potentials and possibilities. But I don't believe that there's one thing that works for everybody. And I don't believe there's one thing that doesn't work for everybody. Like I've worked with energy long enough to see that each person that has come to me is a unique individual. And that's why I don't think we can write off one thing is good and one thing is bad and everybody should do this and nobody should do that. Like I really firmly believe that we all have an obligation to ourselves to connect to our energy and to understand what you desire at a deep level. Not what you've been taught to believe, not what other people have said that you should do. But I believe that that's our right as a human being, like that, clean water, clean air, shelter, food, and the ability to connect to your intuition. Like that is what I firmly believe that every single person should be taught to do in school. This should be a priority. Because this is like connecting to your owner's manual, your operating system, like understanding it at the deepest level of what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you most desire. It all starts inside. And it's so much easier to connect to than we give it credit for. I think we sometimes make it into this really complicated thing. But what we don't understand is it's really about just taking life a little bit slower and starting to make more space for ourselves. And that's what can make such a huge difference. And that's really the cornerstone of the one-on-one healing immersion work that I do with people, is helping you to come back home. Because I guarantee you, every decision that you need to make, every desire that you have, it's already inside of you. It's already inside. And I've had people who come to me who have had so much trauma or so much disconnection from their body that they've never really even felt sensations in their body before. And by the time we're done working together, they're leaving me Voxer messages of, my body said this, and I listened to my body and this was the exercise it wanted, or this was what it told, like, actually, I feel like this is what I should do with my career. And it's such a beautiful, magical transformation that occurs when we're able to stop looking outside of ourselves and being so utterly confused and start going inside for the answers. And it's so empowering, and it builds such deep trust inside of us. So this is really the first step to how do I make better decisions? How do I build my trust? How do I become more intuitive, more spiritual, more energetic? What am I doing with my life? What's my purpose? All of that begins with self-connection. So if you are interested, if this lights you up, I would love to have you join me inside my Awaken workshop on April 4th. I'll put all the details below. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And I would love for you to share this podcast with a friend. Go in, give it a starred rating, a review so that more people can find it. And thank you so much for joining me today on the Body Wise podcast.